والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه أما بعد. Then I would first like to apologize, and I'll reiterate it since no one's in the room, but most of the people listen to the recordings. I would like to apologize that yesterday I did not have class, and that is because I forgot. I had planned to do these classes in the weekdays, and here in Kuwait we have an extra long weekend, including still today. And it just slipped my mind because everyone was not going to work and to school and so on and so forth. I just forgot. So I apologize for anyone who might have been hanging around wanting to join and I forgot. Also, sitting here, I realized that when we were having class, at the bottom here on the ticker tape, it was saying Umdat al-Ahkam, these whole classes, because I had it set up for recording sections from Umdat al-Ahkam. I fixed it, no big deal. With just little small acts of unprofessionalism, I guess. Anyway, we have the link here in the chat, and I'm going to bring Abu Turab in. We're going to finish, inshallah, this first packet. It was on Telegram, the 11 pages, and we'll move on to the 7 pages from the other parts of the book. So, for example, these 11 pages are dealing with the Kitab al-Siyam, the Book of Fasting. And then there are sections from Kitab al-Salat dealing with Tarawih and Witr, and a section from Kitab al-Zakat dealing with Zakat al-Fitr, bi-idhnillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Abu Turab. I don't hear you. Can you say something again? Yeah, I don't hear you. I don't know why. Some people, their microphone and stuff is just not hooked up right away, and some people are. I don't know why. Maybe look at your settings or go out and come back in. I'm not sure. In the meantime, while you work on that, I'll start reading, inshallah ta'ala. Faslun al-Hadi Ashar, the 11th section. Al-I'tikafu, and we all know what this means. Al-I'tikaf. Al-I'tikafu sunnatun fi Ramadan. Right? Al-I'tikaf, sunnah. It is the sunnah in Ramadan. Wa ghayrihi, and in other than it. Meaning, a person can make i'tikaf outside of Ramadan. Min ayam as-sana. Wa ghayrihi min ayam as-sana. And other than it from the days of the year. Wa akadu fi Ramadan. Wa akadu from alif, kaf, dal, meaning to be emphasized. وآكد في Ramadan, and it's emphasized in Ramadan. ولا يشرع إلا في المساجد الثلاثة. ولا يشرع, and it is not legislated. It is not legislated إلا except في المساجد الثلاثة, except in the three masajid, meaning Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, Masjid al-Nabawi in Medina, and Masjid al-Aqsa in al-Quds, or Jerusalem. So the Sheikh's opinion here, due to a hadith, which the scholars differ over its interpretation, right? La yushra'u, it is not legislated, meaning the person should not make itikaf except in three masajid, Mecca, Medina, and al-Quds. And this issue is well known. There are articles been translated in English for 20 years or more now regarding this subject. Does the hadith La itikaf illa fi masajid al-thalatha, there's no itikaf except in the three masajid, does this mean there's no itikaf, a person cannot perform itikaf in other than these three? Or does it mean that the real itikaf is in these three, or so on and so forth? Or other explanations or reasons. Inshallah, we'll try to bring you in a second, brother. So, لا يشرع إلا في المساجد الثلاثة. The Shaykh is saying that itikaf is not legislated except in the three masajid. ويجب الصيام للمعتكف. And it is obligatory. Fasting is obligatory for the person making itikaf. So a person is making itikaf, if he's in the masjid during Ramadan, he should be fasting. Or if he's in the masjid during the daytime, he should be fasting. Because the meaning of itikaf basically is to denounce the worldly matters and to solely dedicate yourself to Allah. So if it's during the daytime that one is doing that, even outside of Ramadan, he is going to be leaving off food and drink. ويجوز له الخروج منه لقضاء الحاجة. ويجوز, and it's permissible, له, for him, al-khuruj, to exit, minhu, meaning from the masjid, right? Or from the itikaf, but from the masjid, li qada il haja, for relieving a need, meaning to use the bathroom. This is a proper, polite way to say, I need to go use the bathroom. I need to take care of something. I need to take care of something. I'll be back. You don't have to announce you're going to do number one or number two, right? If you ever seen movies or TV, a lot of times women will say, I need to go powder my nose, right? This is a polite way of removing themselves from, without being talking about something which is not appropriate at the dinner table or something, or with others. A lot of times you'll hear people say they go to the bathroom, they do number one or number two, or they'll talk, and then the sheikh will say, akramakumullah, right? As if to say we don't like talking about these things. Sheikh Uthaymeen and others asked about using this phrase in this manner, and they said it's not really something that should be done, but not necessarily a harm. This is what I remember the Sheikh saying. Anyway, يجوز له الخروج منه لقضاء الحاجة. It's permissible for him to exit from it, from the itikaf or from the masjid, لقضاء الحاجة, to go use the bathroom, to relieve himself, to take care of a need. ولا يعود مريضا ولا يمس امرأته ولا يباشرها. ولا يعود مريضا this should not have a fatah and a fatatain. It should just be the fatatain, right? He does not visit a sick person. He's not leaving the masjid to go visit a sick person. No, he's not doing that. Ya'udu. This i'ada from ayn waw dal. This is to visit, meaning to visit a sick person. Wala yamassu, yamassu from meme seen to touch. Wala yamassu imra'atahu. He does not touch his wife, meaning with a desire. Wala yubashiruha, and he does not embrace her, touch her, hug her, caress her. Wala yubashiruha. Walahu an yattakhidha, and for him, meaning it's permissible for him, an yattakhidha, to take khaymatan saghiratan, a small tent, khayma, a small tent, ya'takifu fiha, that he will make ittikaf in it, fi mu'akhirati al-masjid, in the back part of the masjid, in the outer parts of the masjid, in the back of the masjid. Not that he's in the front row with a tent, so I'm making ittikaf. No, he's in the back part of the masjid. Mu'akhira from alif kha ra. Inshallah, we're going to try to bring the brother back here. Two brothers, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته أستاذ.
وبركاته.
Alhamdulillah, I hear you now, brother. That's a good thing.
Alhamdulillah. أحسن الله إليكم.
I said in the beginning of the audio, nobody was really in here. I apologize for missing yesterday. I just forgot. I scheduled the classes to be on the weekdays here, which is basically Ahad al-Khamis, Sunday through Thursday. But Sunday and Monday for us are a holiday this weekend here in Kuwait. And when everyone wasn't getting up and going to school and going to work and doing all this, I kind of just forgot. So I apologize.
No problem, Sheikh.
Tayyib. Abu Turab, you want to read the next section?
بإذن الله تعالى. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ويباح للزوجة أن تزور زوجها وهو في معتكفه. It's permissible for the wife that she should visit her husband whilst he is in his i'tikaf.
No.
وله أن يودعها إلى باب المسجد, and it is for him that he can meet her at the door of the masjid.
يودعها to from wild dal ain, basically to bid her farewell, to walk with her to the door of the masjid, right? He doesn't have to stay in his place, in his khayma. He doesn't have to stay, he can walk with her to the door of the masjid. That's what the Sheikh is saying.
بارك الله فيكم. ويجوز لها أن تعتكف مع زوجها, and it's permissible for her to do i'tikaf with her husband. ويبطل الاعتكاف بالجماع, and it will invalidate the i'tikaf if they have sexual intercourse.
Exactly. Go ahead and read this last part, and then we'll bring in Bilal on the next section, inshallah.
إن شاء الله تعالى. وأفضل ليالي رمضان ليلة القدر, and the most virtuous of the nights of Ramadan is Laylat-ul-Qadr. وهي ليلة 27 من رمضان على الأرجح, and that would be the 27th night according to what is the preferred opinion.
The weightier opinion. Arjah, rajaha,
No.
the weightier opinion. The stronger.
The weightier
more
opinion. Barakallahu feek.
ponderant, right? a preponderant opinion. Yeah. Okay, so with that, if there's no questions, then we conclude this first packet that I made up, which is all of the sections from Kitab al-Siyam from the book. But because it was short and because there's always other sections related to fasting, such as Tarawih, Witr, and Zakat al-Fitr, then there's sections inside Kitab al-Salat and Kitab al-Zakat that we can take. And so I single those out, and those are on the Telegram group, inshallah ta'ala. Uh, and so we'll let Brother Bilal, inshallah, begin reading for us here.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الفصل صلاة التراويح. يسن الجماعة.
تسن.
نعم أيوة. تسن الجماعة في قيام رمضان، بل هي أفضل من الانفراد. تسن جماعة في قيام رمضان. It is the sunnah to pray to do the night prayer in Ramadan together as a group.
Nah, in congregation. Nah.
بل هي أفضل من الانفراد. It is better to do it. It is better than doing it singularly. ولها
No.
ولها فضل في سنتي. And it is and for in two it is the fadlu of it, the ولها فضل في سنتي, and it is virtuous in the sunnah.
No, basically.
Okay.
So Sunnah Jama'atu is congregation is the Sunnah fi Qiyam Ramadan, in standing in the night prayer, like you said, in Ramadan. بل هي أفضل من الانفراد, rather it is more preferable or more virtuous than praying it individually, right? ولها فضل في السنة, and it has a virtue in the Sunnah.
Okay. ويسن للنساء حضورها وهي سنة مستحبة وعداد ركعاتها 11. So it is sunnah for the women to be present at it and
to attend it.
Okay, to attend it. And it is a beloved sunnah. وعدادها ركعت, in its the number of its rak'ah is 11 rak'ah.
No. وهي سنة مستحبة is beloved or recommended, right?
نعم أيوة.
Recommended. No. Mustahab, something being mustahab is recommended. It's beloved. I mean, it that's what it means. If something is beloved, it's recommended. Someone loves something, it's recommended to do that thing. They're connected.
أيوة. جزاك الله خير. ووقت صلاة الليل من بعد صلاة عشاء إلا فجر. And the time of the night prayer is from after the Salat al-Isha until Fajr.
No. طيب. Let me see. Go ahead and read these two for us, Brother Abu Turab.
نعم أحسن عليكم. ويكره القراءة من المصحف ويكره القراءة من المصحف في صلاة التراويح, and it is disliked the recitation from the mushaf during صلاة التراويح. ودعاء ختم القرآن في صلاة التراويح لا أصل له, and to make a dua at the end of at the finishing of the Quran during the Salat al-Tarawih, there is no basis for this. أما المسلم إن ختم يسن في حقه أن يدعو ويجمع أهله ويكون ذلك في خارج الصلاة. As for the Muslim, if he was to finish the Quran, it is sunnah في حقه, is
نعم
sunnah.
في حقي من في حق ختم القرآن.
نعم, okay, it is sunnah for him and the haqq of the Quran, that he should, or that he can call and gather his family members, and that should be outside of the salah.
نعم. The first one we want to go back to just briefly, ويكره القراءة من المصحف في صلاة التراويح. It's disliked to recite from the mushaf in Salat al-Tarawih. So I had to go here and look because inside the footnote, right, Suslat Huda wa Nur, tape 130. This is interesting because we know that the ulama talk about this from two angles. Number one, is this talking about the imam or is it talking about the followers? And we know from the followers, the ulama have spoken, many of the ulama have spoken about the followers holding a mushaf in Tarawih and following the imam, and that in actuality that this takes them away from khushu' and salah, because they begin to hold the mushaf, and what do they do with it in ruku'? What do they do with it in sajda? They have to hold it, they have to put it down, they have to find some place to put it, they have to pick it back up, they have to do all these things which are extra in salat, which are unnecessary. Except if maybe the imam wants someone to correct him, then he can appoint someone. But for all of the people in the front row or whatever row holding a mushaf, then of course this is something that is not from the sunnah of the Muslims. But here the Sheikh is actually talking about, if you go to that tape number 130 from that program, As-Silsila Huda wa Nur, he's actually talking about even the imam holding the mushaf. And we know that Aisha radiallahu anha used to appoint her slave or her servant to lead them in salat, and he used to read from the mushaf. But the sheikh, he talks about, he doesn't mention this in his discussion here on this tape, but he says the first reason, there's two reasons why. Number one, that this isn't something that the Salaf used to do on a regular basis. Aisha did it. It didn't mean Aisha did it and Salama did it and Omar did it and Zayd did it and Amr did it. You understand? It just was Aisha did it with her person, but not everybody. Showing a permissibility if there's a necessity, but not the norm. Right? So number one, the Salaf didn't do it, right? And the Salaf were as-salih. They were the righteous predecessors, right? They used to lead the people, and they did not have the mushaf in their hands or on a stand or so on and so forth. He says the second reason is that the imam should be a hafiz of the Quran, right? He says here that the imam should memorize most of, if not all of the Quran, instead of taking the position of being the imam as a what's wadifa, as a job, or a job, but that's not the word, a career or whatever like this, right? A position or a career or a job, taking it as a, then as long as I can do whatever I need to do to get this money, right? Then this is not what the imam should be doing. Rather, the imam should be a person who is, dedicated to the book and to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and not looking for some type of job or career. And that he should memorize the Quran. And it's a lengthy discussion, but this is a summarization of those points. That this should be the imam should be memorizing the Quran, if not all of it, and therefore he doesn't need to read from the mushaf. And he should have this itqan or perfection inside of his recitation. He should, in his memory, it should be correct, right? And he goes on to talk about what does it mean to recite the Quran, taghanni, to have this, not singing, but I don't know how else to translate taghanni bil Quran.
Melodious. Melodious.
Be melodious, yeah. But he goes on to talk about the meaning of that is, and that is to, uh, then they have two ways of saying this. What taghannu bihi, the hadith he brings here, iqra'u hadha Quran wa taghannu bihi, read this Quran and taghannu bihi, because he says it has two meanings. The first one is from the ulama al-wajh al-awwal. He says taghannu bihi ay istaghnu bihi, meaning على أن تطلبوا به أجر الدنيا دون الآخرة. So basically, be sufficient, basically, with reciting the Quran, right? اقرأ هذا القرآن وتغنوا به. Be sufficient with reciting it. I don't need anything from the dunya. I don't need anything from the dunya. I only want the akhirah with it. This is one explanation, right? Meaning be satisfied and be sufficient with the recitation of the Quran, not looking for the dunya with its recitation. And then he says, al-wajh al-thani is to recite it in a manner which you could tell that a person has fear of Allah and he understands it. As for going up and down in the voice and vibrating the sounds and doing all of this, he says this has nothing to do with taghanni bil Quran. All of this has nothing to do with fear of Allah or anything else. All of this is to like pull heartstrings and make the people emotional, right? And it's, like I said, a longer discussion. I'm just trying to summarize it here. So yukrahu al-qira'atu min al-mushaf fi salat al-tarawih. He doesn't say it's haram, but he says it's disliked. The imam should be a hafiz, right? The imam should be a hafiz. That's the norm. وَالدُّعَاء ختم القرآن في صلاة التراويح لا أصل له. So as for finishing or making dua for the completion of the Quran inside of Salat al-Tarawih, there's no origin for it. أما المسلم إن ختم يسن في حقه. As for the Muslim, then if he finishes, it's the sunnah in for him and for the right of the Quran, and يدعو ويجمع أهله, and to invite and to gather his family, ويكون ذلك في خارج الصلاة, and that will be outside of the salah, as we had Ibn Mas'ud and other than them used to do. طيب. Who read that for us? That was Abu Turab, right?
No.
طيب. Bilal.
Mhm.
Let me see here. There we go. Salatul Witr.
Okay. Bismillah. لا وتراني في ليلتي وأقل وتري ركعة وأكثره إحدى عشرة ركعة. لا وتران في ليلة. So there is no witr in the night.
Witran.
Oh, with two. There's no two. Yeah. Aywa. Jazakallahu khairan. There's no two witrs in the night. Wa aqallu, in the least witri rak'atun is one rak'ah. Wa aktharuhu, in the most the most of it could be is ihda ashara, is 11 rak'atan.
Because if you read the Sheikh's book on Tarawih, then he goes to explain that there is no difference between the words Tarawih, Tahajjud, Qiyamul Layl, Salatul Layl, Witr. All of these are basically one word, are different words for one salat.
Wow.
Right? Different words for one salat. So if you make 11 rakat, you made Witr, you also made Tarawih. Right? So there is no. So the aqallu witri rak'atun. The smallest, the least it can be is one rakat. Wa aktharuhu ihda ashrata rakat. and the most of it, the greatest it can be is, the greatest or the largest amount it can be is 11, right? Fadl.
ومن السنة صلاة ركعتين بعد وتر ويحرم تشبيه وتر بمغربي. So ومن السنة صلاة, and from the sunnah, from the sunnah, the salatu, the salat of 2 rak'ah after witr, wa yahrumu.
It's from the sunnah to pray 2 rakat after witr. The Prophet used to pray witr, and then sometimes he used to pray 2 rakat afterwards, and he would sometimes pray them sitting down, right? After witr.
Okay. Wa yahrumu tashbihu witr, and it is haram to resemble witr bi maghribi with salatul maghrib.
Now, yahrumu is prohibited or haram tashbih al-witri bil maghrib, to make witr similar to, make it look like maghrib, meaning to make 2 rakat, sit down, and then another rakat, as we know our brothers from the Ahnaf are famous for doing, right? They usually make witr just like maghrib. And if you say to them this hadith, right, about it being prohibited to make maghrib or to make witr like maghrib, they'll say, but in maghrib we don't recite the last rakat out loud, right? And in witr we recite the last rakat out loud, so there is no tashbih. Wallahi, it makes you, because when you see them do it, it might upset you. Wallahi, they don't know no better, man. Come on, man. They don't like the sunnah. It makes you feel like that. You know, at least makes me feel like that, you know?
Yeah.
But if you have the discussion with them and they say, but we don't make a witr like maghrib, because in maghrib we recite the 3rd rakat silently, and in witr we recite the 3rd rakat out loud, then a bit of that tashbih has been taken away, and now you don't have the same. You might say, yeah, that's not how they did it, though, right? That's not that. At the same time, you got to realize they have a reason why they do things, you know, that it's not just a desire all the time. Rather, they feel that they have removed the tashbih, you know what I mean? And so it might make you a little bit less upset with them when you realize that, right?
Now, Ustad, what about the position that they hold on putting the hands, the right over the left and below the belly button? I've never really had a chance to really get into that, but I know that back when I was in Dallas, back in the early 2000s, I mean, there was a brother that came to Dallas, and he was kind of teaching us. And there were 2 brothers. One was from Saudi, and then the other one, he had studied in Misr for maybe about 15, 16 years. And his name was Abu Asia, and the other brother name was Fawad. And they always kind of talked about that, because at the masajid there in where we were going to, and it was during the Ramadan time. This is something that they did, and I, at the time, I was like, I thought, hey, your hands have to be on your chest, your hands or above your belly button. What is the position on that? Is that is that a good thing? Is it something that is outside of the sunnah, or is it something? Is it once was a part of the sunnah, or what's the hukum on it?
Well, when you get to these types of matters, I mean, when you get to differences of opinion, then there's a book called al-Awsat, which is 11 or 12 volumes, maybe 13. It's right in the other room. But anyway, al-Awsat. Then here you have this person, Ibn al-Mundhir, was from the time of like Bukhari, Muslim, Ibn Majah. He's in this type of tabaqa. and he brings the differences of opinions. Basically, he was like a mujtahid mutlaq, whereas he had his own madhab to some degree. And he just brought what everyone did. What is the sunnah? What does it say about the? He brings like for instance, he'll say at-tahara. We're going to talk about at-tahara, and we're going to talk about like what breaks at-tahara based upon the Quran, based upon the sunnah, based upon ijma', and then based upon what individuals said, right? There's no ijma' in. And then he goes to say things like, if there is not an ayah and there is not a hadith and there is no ijma' on this issue, then, for example, if there's a difference of opinion over touching the penis, does it break wudu or not? Right? Or touching the private parts in general, not just the penis, right? Mm-hmm. Touching the private parts in general, does it break wudu or not? If there's a difference of opinion over it, then it doesn't break wudu. Because there is no difference of opinion over the religion like this. You understand what I'm saying? And his explanation and his way of dealing with things is excellent. So you might find
that's beautiful. That's very beautiful, subhanallah.
That's nice. Outside. Okay, outside.
No doubt, it's very beautiful. But people have to get past, Sifat al-Salat al-Nabi of Sheikh al-Albani and Sheikh bin Baz and Sheikh Uthaymeen, Sheikh Mukbil. We have to go back and go to the early scholars. So, for example, I'll give you an example. Anyway, my point is, and then I'll give you the example. The point is that you might find some of the Salaf held their hands below the belly button, and some of the scholars along the years have held the position. This is where it should be. And when you start to find out these things, then you're in car on the one who does different than what you've been taught. Your dislike and your in car, I can't think of a good word for it. Your rejection of the opposite of what you were taught to be the sunnah. Like, Sheikh al-Albani taught us things that we took as the sunnah, and then we find out that maybe someone else had a different opinion. So, as an example, what would you say about someone who made 43 rakat for Tarawih?
Definitely that it's outside the sunnah.
Abdullah bin Mubarak did it. Okay. Right? Abdullah bin Mubarak, radiallahu anhu, you're gonna say he did bid'ah?
No, not.
Are you willing to say Abdullah bin Mubarak was doing the bid'ah? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Imam al-Tirmidhi narrated it in his Jami that Abdullah bin Mubarak did it. Now, we could say it's 11 rakat, and that's what's preferable. And khayru hadi Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The best guidance is the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? At the same time, if someone does something different because they have a different understanding, and you don't know their understanding, it's different when you know that they don't understand or that they are misunderstanding. Like, for example, you talk to someone about making Witr like Maghrib from the Ahnaf in the Masajid, and you say, brother, this is what our Imams taught us, and this is what we're doing. Okay, well, you're just a blind follower. But if he answers you and say, well, brother, we don't make Maghrib like our Witr like Maghrib because we don't write the third rakat out loud in Maghrib, and we do in Witr. Now, you have to step back and give him a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
So, we love Sheikh al-Albani. This is why we're reading his book, and we found it to be an excellent book, and it's something simple and easy, and we can study his opinions here. It's nice. And we've already done Minhaj al-Salikin of Sa'di, and we've already done Umdat al-Fiqh of al-Maqdisi, and and maybe one other book I don't remember for Ramadan, right? So we did something. We figured let's do something easy and nice and something to review the ahkam of Ramadan. And if someone differs with something Sheikh al-Albani says, then there's plenty of other resources out there. But we're reading something and benefiting.
No.
But I have an example. I don't know if you've ever seen our brothers from the Shafi brothers from like Somalia, Kenya, and so on. That when they make wudu, a lot of times they just take a couple fingers with some water on it and wipe over just the front part of their forehead.
Yes.
Is this wudu acceptable? What is this, man? You don't even wipe your whole head, and they might even be bald headed doing it. They ain't like they ain't even messing up their hair. You know what I mean? It's like,
Wow.
what are you doing, man? You know what I mean? What is this? But then you go and you find that Imam Shafi, rahimahullah, said whatever is considered wiping the head with the littlest amount. So I would say when you wipe your head, do you get every single hair on your head wet? No. Especially if your hair is longer. You're not getting every single hair wet, right? So what's the percentage of hair you have to get wet? And if I was to just do this outside of wudu, and then, imagine the action of what you see the brothers doing. If I was to take my couple fingers and just wipe the front of my head outside of wudu, what did I just do? Why is he doing this? Why is he wiping his head like that?
Right.
Right? But what did you just say? He's wiping his head. Now, what's the percentage? This and that. Of course, is it the sunnah way of doing it? No. The sunnah is to go from the front to the back and back to the front, or back to front and front to back, or side to side, right? There's 3 different ways that it could be done, but none of them said just to wipe off the little front. However, even with that little bit, okay, that's not the sunnah, but the sunnah is not all of what is acceptable. You can do something outside the sunnah which is acceptable, right? And so, like, I remember in our masjid, I saw a brother do it. It just made me so mad, man. I'm like, no, Akhi, you have to wipe your whole head. No, man, this is how we make. Well, I'm Shafi. This is how we do it. It just pissed me off, just honestly. And so I went after the salat. I said after the salat in our masjid, I said, listen, man, some of you guys are making wudu. Well, I'm fearful your wudu is not acceptable, man. I'm fearful. And then it was at Maghrib time, and it was kind of a big deal. And somebody else went and talked to Abdul Hakim, and then so I said, okay, I'm gonna look this issue up. I'm gonna be on better knowledge, because I fear I might have spoke without looking at the subject the way it deserved to, So then I started looking it up. So between Maghrib and Isha, I come up with the position that you have to wipe your head. But what does that mean? How much of your head does have to be wiped, and this and that? What is that considered? When he did that, he wiped his head. Even though I feel that's not the sunnah of the Prophet, that's not what's best. And they still put themselves in danger. At the same time, your inkar, your rejection, especially your vocal rejection and to that person, is a little bit less when you realize that they have a wajh. They have an angle from which they're doing their action,
No, you're right.
And so some of the people held the position that it should be below the navel. And if I'm not mistaken, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, these are the types of things, right?
Now you just hit me with that. Okay, that hit.
I could be mistaken, but if I'm not mistaken, I think he might be one of them.
Wow. Yeah, Ustad, you're right. It's in his Mukhtasar of Zad al-Ma'ad.
That it should be below the navel.
Naam. He bought a hadith for it as well, yeah.
Right.
He put a hadith for it too?
Yeah, there is some dalil for it. Naam. There is.
It could be a weak hadith. It could be. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it could be a weak hadith. It could be this. But the point is that some of our scholars that we consider Salafi from our Salaf that we appreciate, they held positions that we are not aware of. The more you study, this is what I see in my own personal experience, meaning my own experience in learning and studying, as well as those around me, right? The experience that I've experienced with others. One of the main hallmarks of Salafiyah that was taught in the 90s was anti-madhab. I believe that's kind of one of the main hallmarks, the main signposts of Salafiyah, that we don't blindly follow a madhab. And we even got the book by the Japanese guy, Zenjijani or whatever his name is, where he talked about blind following the four madhabs, and it's translated into English, and Sheikh al-Albani wrote a forward to it or whatever it was. And we got all this. But the more you study, the more you find, and you're not getting away from Salafiyah. You're not studying and then not becoming Salafi, as happens with a lot of brothers, right? But the more you study, the more you find that some of the things you oppose, that you're just going back towards as you study, man. And that this is the position, the real position of the Salaf. And I believe that Sheikh al-Albani did not want to necessarily completely wipe out the understanding of the madhahib. He just wanted to stop the blind following of the madhahib, you know. In fact, many scholars claim al-Albani was Hanafi.
Hanbali.
You know? Hanafi.
Hanafi? I thought he was Hanbali. I thought he grew up in the. It says Hanbali.
Yeah, he grew up in Syria. He was Hanafi. His father was Hanafi, and that's why his father wanted him to lead the Salah. And this is why him and his father got into it, because they used to, the Hanafis and the Shafis all had different prayers, and so there was a time there was a time where the Hanafis would pray first, and then the Shafis would pray second, and then the Shafis would, and then they would switch. They would say, okay, I'm just gonna say 6 months or something, even though it's probably not like that. So they would take a period of time, and then the Shafis would pray first, and then the Hanafis would pray second. And so Sheikh al-Albani is of the position that there is no such thing as a second Jama'ah. The second Jama'ah is impermissible. So he always prayed with the Hanafis. But then when the Shafis became, their turn was to go first, he would pray with the Shafis. And his father was the Sheikh of the Ahnaf, and he needed to do something, so he needed Sheikh al-Albani to lead the Salat. And he told him, I'm not going to lead the Salat. I don't believe in the second Jama'ah. I'm praying with the Shafis in the first Jama'ah. I'm not praying with the Hanafis in the second Jama'ah, because I don't believe in the second Jama'ah. So he was Hanafi in many of his positions, such as going down on the hands before the knees, such as not placing the hands on the chest after ruku', such as I don't know, I can't think of them all, but many of his positions in Salat are like, for instance, following the Imam. When the Imam says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to the right, and while he's saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to the left, then the Hanafis and Sheikh al-Albani say Assalamu alaikum to the right, while the Imam is still doing it, while the Hanbalis wait until he gives taslim to both sides, and then they give taslim. Where Sheikh al-Albani says, no, as soon as he finishes the taslim to the right, then while he's making a taslim to the left, you go taslim to the right. And if you do that, which I do that, I believe that's the correct position from what I've read, then you'll end up, when you turn to the left, all the Hanbalis are looking at you in your face. They're just now turning to the right, you know? And so it puts you in a position sometimes. But Sheikh al-Albani, they say, was Hanafi, but not a blind follower. And Allah knows best.
Yeah. Ustad, sorry. Afwan. I just wanted to make a self-correction. The Sheikh, I just checked it. The Sheikh said that it's not narrated authentically from the Prophet ﷺ, the position of the two hands, but it was narrated from Ali radiallahu anhu in Abu Dawood. That from the Sunnah is that he placed the cuff upon the cuff in Salah below the tahta as-sarra.
No.
So it's from Ali radiallahu anhu, not from a hadith. That's what the Sheikh said in the Muqtasar.
Jazakallah khairan. So here we have Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab saying to place the hand below the navel according to Ali radiallahu anhu.
Wow.
Then we have a book which is translated into English by Sheikh Badiuddin Rashid Asindi about where to place the hands in the salah. And it's translated in English for 20 years or so now. And he brings the hadith from Ali, the tafsir of Ali radiallahu anhu, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ, that wanhar here means to place your hands on your upper part of your chest, right? The upper part of it, not just above the navel, but the upper part of your chest. And so that's why you see some brothers with their hands way up here close to their throats, almost like they're shrugging their shoulders, because they use this tafsir of Ali according to Badiuddin Asindi. But some scholars have said Badiuddin Asindi was the very first one to authenticate that narration from Ali to mean that. SubhanAllah. I mean, SubhanAllah. So I mean, this is why you read a book and you see Badiuddin Asindi saying this. You say, "Well, it's the haqq." You know, here he is. This is a Salafi Sheikh from a Hanafi environment talking about this, and he's bringing the narration, the tafsir of Ali for the Quran, subhanallah, and you want to follow it, and then you find Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab bringing a hadith from Abu Dawood, from Ali, saying opposite of that, complete opposite. One's going up to the throat, and one's going down below the belly button. So you almost want to say it's not possible for them to both be right, but then you might talk out of turn, because maybe Ali said both of them, and maybe there's a reason for it, and we don't know it. So you have to slow your roll and learn and be sincere and with yourself, and be sincere to others. Ad-deenun nasiha, right? The religion is sincerity, right? Sincere advice, or sincerity. Sincere to yourself and sincere to others. Right? Yeah. So I don't when I see Bilal doing something, and he says, well, or I see Abu Turab putting his hand below his navels and saying, well, Ali said it. And Ali didn't say that, man, but Diyadeen said he said this over here. Well, Abu Dawood said it. First off, Abu Dawood has more right to be followed than Badiuddin Asindi. Abu Dawood is from the Salaf. But people argue like this. People beef with each other like this, and they lose friendships, and they turn their faces towards each other with issues like this. So you have to be sincere. And I believe that Abu Turab is doing what he thinks is right, even if I disagree. And I believe that what I'm doing is right, even if he disagrees. And let's sit down and let's read some books. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get along while still differing. Can you imagine? What if we all traveled somewhere and couldn't agree on the Qibla, so we all prayed a different direction?
That's the scary thing about it.
But this happened to the Sahaba. They didn't agree, and they all prayed in a different direction. So what? Did any of them make takfir the other one? Did anyone make tabdi' of the other one? No, they just differed with each other. Bilal believes it's over there. Let him pray over there. I believe it's over here. I'm going to pray over here. Abu Turab believes it's a third direction. He's going to pray in his direction. We might all be 12 of us facing 12 different directions. This one's facing north. This one's facing northeast. This one's facing northeast. This one's facing northeast east. This is facing west. This one, you know what I mean? Everybody praying in a different direction. So what? But I believe all of y'all are sincere, and you're different with me because this is what you believe to be the truth. But I just can't agree with you, and you haven't brought me the evidence. Doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean I got to fight you about it.
Yeah. I was in Philadelphia back in the 90s, and that was when everybody was just coming, the first wave or the second wave of the young guys after Bilal Phillips and after the other people who went over there. But after that wave, they came back in about 95, 97, I think. And, it was like they were saying, the madahibs don't, we can't blind follow. In like you said, they were talking about the madahibs. and you know, it really, that I really couldn't, I didn't really attach on to that, or to just not follow a madhahib at all, because I used to be on 52nd Street. So you know, everybody was pushing it hard in Philly. So because I was like, we're laymen. You know, this always ran through my mind, man. We're laymen, brother. We don't know. I mean, unless we ask the shuyukh on particular issues that we're having with this and this and that. But I mean, as a whole, I mean, we need some type of guidelines to go through. Now, whether you follow this one or that one, I mean, be that as it
We
may.
did. We did. We just adopted the guidelines of Bin Baz and Uthaymeen and al-Albani. That's all. We started
Okay,
following their madhab instead of following the madhab of the early Salaf.
right. Yeah. Um,
And 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 I remember asking a brother, and then we'll read this last sentence before we go of this paragraph. But I remember asking a brother who has the more right to be followed. They don't have a dalil that you're aware of,
mhm.
but you just have their statement. Who has more right to be followed, al-Albani or Abu Hanifa? He said
The,
al-Albani. I said, man, Abu Hanifa is from the Tabi'een or the Atba' Tabi'een. Even if
nice.
you don't, even if you don't call him from the Tabi'een, he's from the Atba' Tabi'een. You got his statement versus someone born in the 14th century, man. This dude's in the 2nd century and he's in the 14th century. And you're gonna tell me he has more right to be followed? Just a statement. We don't have a dalil, we don't have evidence, we don't know. All we know is he said it. You're gonna
No,
you're gonna follow his statement over Abu Hanifa's statement? Yeah.
yeah.
Miskin. Miskin. طيب. Let's just read this real quick again. La witran fi laylatin, no two witrs in one night. Meaning, if you pray witr with the imam, or if you pray witr on your own, and then you wake up later on, or you want to pray later on after the imam, then you just pray 2 by 2, and you do not make witr again. You only make one witr, right? One witr in the nighttime. Wa aqallul witri rak'atun. The least amount of witr is one rakat. Wa aktharuhu, and the most, or the upper limit, ihda ashrata rak'atan, is 11 rakat. Wa min as-sunnah salatu rakatain ba'da al-witr, and from the sunnah is to pray 2 rakat after witr. Wa yahrumu tashbih al-witri bil maghrib, and it is prohibited to make witr like al-maghrib. وَمَنْ نَامَ أَوْ نَسِيَ الْوِتْرَ, and whoever slept or forgot to make witr, right? Whoever slept or forgot to make witr, يَقْدِيهَا, he makes it up, right? يَقْدِيهَا عندما يتذكرها, whenever he remembers it. So if a person should make witr. This is not an obligation, but it's the sunnah to make it up, right? It is the sunnah to make it up. وَيُصَلِّيهَا شَفْعًا, and he'll pray it as a even number of rakat, right? So if a person is his sunnah or his normal ada, his practice is to make 1 rakat of witr, and then he forgets it when it comes time for duha, he should make 2 rakat. If his normal sunnah or practice is to make 3 rakat, then if he forgets witr for whatever reason, or forgets it, or sleeps through it, then when duha comes, he should make 4 rakat. If his sunnah or his ada, his habit is to make 5 rakat witr, then when he wakes up, he should make 6 rakat in the time of duha, in order to make up for his witr that he forgot. وَيَنْتَهِي وَقْتُهَا, and its time ends بِطُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ, with the rising of Fajr, right? And there's a video I have on my channel that I translated from one of the mashayikh about witr, Ibrahim al-Muhammad, Allah yahfadhahu. And I would suggest and refer everyone to that video because it talks about Witr and the importance of it. Somebody else joined us here. Is there any questions before? Because today we went kind of long, and then we've been here about an hour. And then let me see, it was Mustafa. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. I have a quick question.
Is it related to what we're talking about?
Yeah. It definitely is.
Okay.
Yeah, basically it's about the witr. You said if it's someone's ada, right? Let's say it's not your ada. Let's say like, I decided, today I want to pray witr, but I want to get up and pray it, but I just happen to like sleep on it on that day, but it's not my ada. Do I still make it up, or like nah, it's just specific to people who pray, regularly?
So you don't normally make witr, but today you said you were going to, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
you didn't.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, Allahu Akbar.
Fair enough.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Subhanallah.
if you're going to follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he would do something, he never left it off. So, for example, when he didn't get to make his 2 rakats after Dhuhr, then he made them after Asr, and then after that, he made 2 rakat after Asr all the time. You see what I'm saying?
Mashallah.
Because he started
I get
a practice and he didn't want to leave it off. You see what I'm saying? And so I would hesitate to say, because I don't know. So you don't want to start something and then but if I would definitely say if it's your ada, and making witr should become your ada, and this is why I would refer anyone back to that audio that I did, or that video from Sheikh Ibrahim al-Muhammad, because witr is super easy. And in fact, witr, and he brings five, I'm not going to remember all 5 of them right now, but he brings 5 evidences or 5 reasons why witr is more important than the sunnah of fajr.
Oh, subhanallah.
Wow.
Subhanallah.
Because
it's interesting.
the sunnah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One second. No problem. For example, the sunnah of fajr everyone agrees that they're sunnah, but they have never been recommended with a command. Right? While the Prophet said, "Oh, tiru," he gave a command. Now, this is when we talk about the command. Is it an obligation, or is it a command of mustahab? So the scholars say it's mustahab. No one says witr is an obligation except maybe the Ahnaf. So it's not an obligation upon us. However, it came, the sunnah of it came in the form of a command, while the sunnahs of fajr did not. Right? And he goes and he brings 4 more reasons why witr is more important. And we don't leave off the sunnahs of fajr. Even if we leave off the sunnahs of dhuhr and maghrib and isha, we don't leave off the sunnahs of fajr. Right? Most people do not leave off the sunnahs of fajr, yet we leave off witr. And witr is easy. Witr can be prayed sitting down. Witr can be prayed with 1 rakat. Witr can be played, it's the easiest salat a person can make. And then he goes on and gives you some, if you're not used to making it, gives you a practical schedule of how you can make it something that you do become used to it. And then, like I said, he talks about وَيَنْتَهِي وَقْتُهَا بِطُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ, that its time ends at the entrance of Fajr. However, there are 5 from the companions, he says, there are 5 from the companions who used to, if for whatever reason they missed making witr, they prolonged their prayer, whatever, then they would still make it even after the entrance of Fajr. Even after the entrance of Fajr, they would still make it. But he says that this is only for the person who is, this is his solid, consistent practice. Right? 1 second before you make your comment. Go ahead. Say what you were going to say.
No. I don't really have nothing to say. I'm just saying subhanAllah because there's no info, but nothing much to say.
No. As for our brother Mas Sao, I wish he had a microphone, man. He's from China. I really want to hear his voice one day, inshallah. Mas Sao, right? He says our Imam does it. I'm assuming he means he prays Witr like Maghrib. So is it better to pray Witr alone after Tarawih? No. It is not better to pray Witr alone after Tarawih. It is better to pray with the Imam. Al-Khilaf Shar. Opposing and differing with one another is evil. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever prays behind the Imam until he turns away from his prayer, and he has a prayer of the whole night. If he does something wrong, it's on him. Just like when Uthman radiallahu anhu, and we're not saying he was wrong, he had a reason for doing it. When he completed the prayer during Hajj, instead of shortening it, the Sahaba prayed behind him in the completed prayer instead of the shortened prayer, even though they knew that the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the sunnah of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and the sunnah of Umar radiallahu anhu was to shorten the prayer. When Uthman completed the prayer, they prayed behind him. And when they asked him why did he do it, he said, khilaf shar. Opposing one another is evil. So if the Imam, this is what the Imam does, then you follow him in it and you advise him in it and you talk to him about it. There's nothing wrong with if someone discussing the issue with others, but not in a manner of making khuruj upon the Imam, so that people walking out, half of the ranks are falling out in the middle. Everybody prayed up until Witr, and then all of a sudden, one person from the first row and 2 or 3 people from the second row, 4 or 5 people from the third row, they start falling out. They're no longer praying behind them. And then people saying, what's all this? And then they say, oh, we don't pray behind him because he does this bid'ah of making Witr like Maghrib, and there's a hadith against it. He don't want to follow that. No, that's not how we do it. We go to Imam, we talk to him. We say, even if you recite the third rakat out loud, this is not how the Prophet ﷺ did it. He did 1 rakat, or he did 3 rakat. And if he did 2 rakat, he did 2 and then 1, or he did 3 with one tashahhud. This is what's authentic from the ulama. As for what comes after that, then this is what's authentic from the Prophet ﷺ. As for what comes after that, then khairul hajji hajjun nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you explain it to him, but you don't make khuruj against the Imam. Al-khilaf shar. Right? Somebody had something. 1 second, here comes somebody else. I'm gonna bring them just to see if they got something, and then we're gonna glow. Assalamu alaikum. Zahir Abdullah here. Who is this? Microphone not working. Anyway, inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow we'll come back and I'll try to have some notes from that video about Witr, just for your benefit. But I still refer you back to the video because it's the Sheikh's entire speech. But inshallah, we'll come back tomorrow at 10 p.m. Mecca time. Not 10 p.m. I'm sorry, 5:30 a.m. Mecca time. I'm talking about the telelinks with the scholars. 5:30 a.m. Mecca time. So whatever that is in your time zone, 9:30, I think. No, what is that?
No, 8:30.
8:30 in the Central Western time zone, 9:30 in the East Coast. You figure it out wherever you're at in Malaysia or wherever you are. You figure it out in China. And we'll come back tomorrow and we'll finish reading some more. Bismillah ta'ala. طيب.
طيب جزاكم الله خيرا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.